What's going on, everybody? This is Lady Luck Club here again, and we are going to talk about this SEC federal lawsuit from the SEC filed on August 12th against Novatech, the Ponzi scheme that it always was. Let me tell you all something. I have an entire playlist on my YouTube channel called Novatech FX, where I've been reporting on this Ponzi scheme for over a year. From day one, I said it was an MLM, but it was a pyramid scheme. Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, MLM scam. That's a scam. They lied, they stole money, and they took advantage of over 200,000 people all over the world. And they did it and did not care about the effects of this scam on none of its victims. And you still have people on YouTube doing videos, unlimited freedom, telling people that they're not victims because somehow everybody knew what they were doing. Well, you know what? At some point, you're going to have to put them words to good use and explain them in front of a judge in a court of law. Just because you haven't been named in a lawsuit either does not mean that you will not be named in a lawsuit or in a list of indictment charges that's going to come down the pipeline. All of these promoters need to catch it. Period. Don't give them a pass because you think they're your friend. If they're going to sit here and say some of the most vile and vicious and disgusting things ever, don't give them a pass. Just say, you know what? Okay, that's what you think. Now I'm glad you putting that out there in the air, saying this all out loud, because at the end of the day, they got it coming. They got it coming. So we're going to go through what is posted on the SEC.gov website. And the reason why I'm doing this now is because I like to do a little research. Yeah, you guys know I like to read the court filings and all of that, which I've done. I haven't read the entire court filing from the SEC. I'm still reading that. It's 55 pages long, so it's taking a minute. But I do, like to see get a gauge of what anyone else is reported out there. And I've seen Unlimited Freedom's video that he did on this. And no, he's not the only one bringing forth this information. I think he's the only one that's still bringing forth this information and still trying to pretend like he doesn't understand the definition of the term fraud. That's the issue that I'm having. Your pump and dump schemes are absurd and insane. And for some reason, you think that Novatech is still not a Ponzi scheme, and now you don't know the definition of the term fraud, but you tell people you're an investor with no credentials. I want to see a license on this. Not your so-called class you think you completed. Nope. Credentials. Because that's exactly what a judge is going to ask you for. And don't think you don't have it coming. You're going to get named. You and BOJ, y'all got it coming. You're going to get named in a federal lawsuit. People are going to get sick of your BS. Many people already are. But they're going to get to the point where they're going to literally continue to name drop you in complaints. And you're going to be a part of this investigation, whether this federal lawsuit comes from a federal government agency or whether it comes from a state attorney general. Because, we can have one filed in Georgia, California, Florida. I mean, the attorney general in Florida can file one too. And wherever you think you're hiding, someone always knows where you are. So at the end of the day, you're not getting away with it. You have a treasure trove of evidence. All those videos you have on your channel, guess what? They will be used against you in a court of law. Yep. You and BOJ got it coming. Bottom line. I think I have not been more disgusted at the deterrence and the deflection from these promoters than I have been. And I'm just even more disgusted at these so-called co-defendants that have been named in the SEC federal lawsuit. And ZZ should not get a partial settlement agreement. The court should deny his partial settlement agreement. First of all, he's trying to lowball everybody with this insulting penalty of $100,000. That might be 5% of what he actually received and pulled out from this Ponzi scheme. If Corey Sampson got over $1 million within a month or two, ZZ got at least $2 million. And he's trying to literally in enjoying himself from this. Meaning he just wants to separate himself from all of this because he knows that there are a series of indictment charges coming down the pipeline. I pray to God it comes from the FBI, but I'll take it from an AG or a DA in a minute. I don't care. They're going to be federal charges, and it's going to result in some real prison time. All of them need to go to prison for the rest of their natural born lives. They all need to go to prison. These co-defendants are absolutely disgusting and an embarrassment to humanity. And please stop talking about Jesus. Jesus didn't tell you all to lie and steal money from people and pretend like you don't know definitions of terms. Even the Bible states that thou art to obey the laws of the land. I can give you another scripture. God himself was asked when he was here on earth. Jesus was asked about paying taxes. And you know what he said? Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God. Because the Romans were occupying Jerusalem at the time. They collected taxes. The Romans collected taxes from the Jewish people staying in the area. And Jesus himself did not tell people. He didn't live a lawless man. He didn't tell people not to pay their taxes. He said, you give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God. You all realize Jesus had an occupation here on earth. He was a carpenter. His father, Joseph, was a carpenter. They paid taxes. And if you don't believe me, find one scripture in the Bible where Mary and Joseph did not pay taxes and they still got away with it. As a matter of fact, one of the disciples that followed Jesus everywhere was a tax collector himself. 5 points if you can name that one disciple. Name the disciple for 5 points who was a tax collector. You really think that Jesus would walk this earth and not care about our laws? But they want to tell us that God is not the author of chaos and confusion, nor does he care about your deception and your lies and your fraudulent behavior. No, you got it coming, and you're going to have to answer to it here on earth and in heaven on Judgment Day. Good luck to that. Anyone won't be in heaven because I don't think half of y'all going to make it and act like y'all don't understand what's going to happen on Judgment Day. Let me clarify. You're not going to be able to go and stand before God and say how you defrauded a bunch of people, because that's exactly how God is going to see it. And then just say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But then you never ever told the victims that you stole all this money from that you were sorry either. Nope. You got it coming. I'll make sure of that. And I mean every word I say with that. And I haven't missed the mark yet. Y'all know that. I have not missed that yet. I've been saying that this federal lawsuit was going to come from the SEC. I've been saying that it was an investigation going on. I myself filed a complaint. And I submitted over at least 50 exhibits myself from my research. You can imagine what they got from the OSC with their 50 exhibits submitted as evidence in their investigation. And that's not including everybody else's documentation and evidence to prove that they've been scammed and defrauded by this Ponzi scheme that took millions of dollars from people. Yes, and it doesn't matter what they were selling or trading or anything. They could have been trading apples, oranges, and bananas. It doesn't matter. They weren't doing that. They was just using that as a ruse to take your money. And these dumb petions can be extradited back to the U.S. I don't know why people continue to listen to Vaughn at this point with unlimited freedom, but you continue to say things and it does not even coincide with the Department of Justice, nor does it even coincide with case law. There's precedence to establish that we, the U.S., and I say as a citizen of the U.S., do not need an extradition treaty to exchange someone out of a country. If we want them, we will get them. Case in point, Brittany Griner, a former WNBA player, was extradited from Russia. We don't have an extradition treaty with them. As a matter of fact, they're a hostile country. And yet, we had to do an exchange to get Brittany Griner from Russia. So we got Brittany Griner out of Russia. What makes you think we could not get these dumbass petions from Panama? Are you out of your mind? Bro, we put missiles near Cuba. Stop it. We helped build the Panama Canal. What makes you think we couldn't get these people out of Panama again? You're defying social studies, laws, and case law. Are you serious? And what's on the Department of Justice website that you still fail to read? And you don't think you got it coming to you? You better hire an attorney. Hire an attorney. And please go to court and tell a judge you don't believe anyone is a victim and that the SEC should be dismantled. Please go in there and say all of that, because I'm going to record that video of you saying that. Oh, yes, I am. Oh, yes. Please go into court and say how the government should be dismantled, as if that would eradicate federal laws that are passed from our legislative branch of government, which is a separate but co-equal branch of power to our executive branch and our judicial branch of government. Please go in there and say that to a judge. How in a U.S. court, how our government agencies that have laws that they are bound to uphold and enforce, passed from our United States Congress, should be dismantled because Congress that writes those laws and passes those laws, for some reason, don't know what they're doing now. But yet, you're not running for Congress trying to change anything either. So shut up. Either you running for the Senate, U.S. Senate, or House of Representatives, or you can shut the hell up and answer to this stuff and be a man about it. Not a coward. You're going to be a man about it. And you're going to stand before a judge and answer to this. You and Bank of Gerald got it coming. Gerald, I don't care what your name is at this point. I can't have any respect for you two when you sit here and try to make it seem as if you should not be held accountable for promoting a Ponzi scheme. Stop it. All right, so let's read this article. And the SEC charges Novatech and its principals and promoters with a $650 million crypto fraud. On August 12, 2024, the SEC today announced charges against Cynthia Eddie Petion along with their company Novatech LTD for operating a fraudulent scheme that raised more than $650 million in crypto assets from more than over 200,000 investors worldwide, including many in the Haitian American community. The SEC also charged Martin Zizi, Dapulunu Dunbar, James Corbett, Corey Sampson, John Garofano, and Marsha Hadley for their roles in promoting Novatech to investors. According to the SEC's complaint, the Petions operated Novatech as a multi-level marketing and crypto asset investment program from 2019 through 2023. They lured investors by claiming Novatech would invest their funds on crypto asset and foreign exchange markets. Cynthia Petion, little girl, assured investors that their investments would be safe and promised that in this program you are in profit from day one because, again, you have access to that capital. So that's the only reason why you were, in profit from day one, because you have access to something that you never got access to because she stole your money. The end. That's just, pyramid schemes are not designed for everybody to get paid. Just the people at the top. That's how it works. Don't believe me? Look up other pyramid schemes. In reality, Novatech used the majority of investor funds to make payments to existing investors and to pay commissioners to promoters, using only a fraction of investor funds for trading. The complaint further alleges that the Petions siphoned millions of dollars of investor assets for themselves, because that's how pyramid schemes work. They take money from themselves. When Novatech ultimately collapsed, most investors were not able to withdraw their investments, resulting in substantial losses, according to the complaint. Novatech and the Petions caused untold losses to tens of thousands of victims around the world, said Eric Warner, director of the SEC's Fort Worth regional office. As we allege, MLM schemes of this size require promoters to fuel them, and today's action demonstrates that we will hold accountable not just the principal architects of these massive schemes, but also promoters who spread their fraud by unlawfully soliciting victims. Victims, a term that Vaughn from Unlimited Freedom still refuses to define. Jesus. The SEC's complaint alleges that Novatech's top promoters, ZZ Dunbar, Corbett, Sampson, Garofano, and Hadley, each recruited a wide network of investors and promoters. Novatech paid them substantial commissions for the investors they and their networks recruited. When ZZ Dunbar, Corbett, and Sampson became aware of certain red flags about Novatech, including regulatory actions taken against it by U.S. and Canadian regulators, they continued recruiting investors and downplayed the red flags. They downright insulted the California cease and desist order flat out in a whole video because, they so smart. The SEC's complaint, filed in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, charges Novatech, the Petions, ZZ Dunbar, Corbett, and Sampson with violating the anti-fraud provisions of the federal securities laws and all of the defendants with registration violations. The complaint seeks permanent injunctive relief, disgorgement of ill-gotten gains, and civil penalties. Without admitting or denying the allegations, ZZ agreed to partially settle the SEC's charges by consenting to a $100,000 civil penalty and to be permanently enjoined from future violations of the charge provisions, with the amount of other monetary remedies to be determined at a later date. The partial settlement is subject to court approval. The court should deny it. Deny it, deny it, deny it. ZZ should not get off that easy with just being able to pay so far, which is a partial settlement, $100,000 when he probably pulled out at least over $2 million, because according to the filing, Corey Sampson pulled out $1 million between February and March of 2023. So you can imagine what ZZ pulled out. And I would have to assume that it is double. And if he doesn't like what I'm saying, he can prove me wrong by producing those transactions from his e-wallet. Good luck to that. So this is where we are here. They literally tried to downplay a lot of things. All these promoters did. Okay? And that's why I'm saying BOJ and Unlimited Freedom needs to be mentioned as well. Bank of Gerald, who hosted Dapper Little Dunbar dumbass twice and kissed his ass the entire time, as well as Unlimited Freedom with Vaughn. Both of them should be named in some federal lawsuits, as well as the indictment that is surely to come, to which I hope all of these people end up suffering the consequences by having federal prison time sentenced for the rest of their natural born lives. You all thought that you can get away with violating securities laws that have been in place since the 40s, 1940s? That's been around since longer than some of you been alive on Earth. Most of these people were born in the 50s and 60s. So you have securities laws and antitrust laws that have been in place longer than you have walked this planet. And you think you should get away with violating those same laws. Vaughn thinks they should just be dismantled with an entire government agency for reasons. Because he wants to get away with continuing on with pump and dump schemes. You are a con man and a con artist, and you should go to prison for the rest of your life. Because you continue to do that to this very day. You knew when to pull out your money as well. You pulled out when you saw that cease and desist order from California, while you still went on many videos on your channel and said how no one else should pull out, and how, oh, well, this isn't a Ponzi scheme. You all knew what you were doing. No, it's a Ponzi scheme. You were a promoter, and you should answer for that. And you should have to answer to it in front of a judge in a federal court of law. The end. That's how that should go for you. And I will be sure that it does. You're the worst specimen of Earth, human feces on Earth. You're the worst, bro. And you don't have a remorseful bone in your body. You might want to start conjuring up on how you're going to fake that now. So the SEC's investigation was conducted by Catherine Rousey, Todd Baker, and Jamie Hosicker of the Fort Worth Regional Office, with assistance from Sijal Bhatta of the Crypto Assets and Cyber Unit. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I'm probably saying it wrong, so I apologize. I'm not going to continue to try to correct it either, because then I'll just keep butchering it. Under the supervision of Nikolay Verishenko, I'm not going to butcher it anymore, and B. David Fraser. The litigation is being conducted by Patrick Disbennett and supervised by Keefe Bernstein. The commission appreciates the assistance of the Office of the New York Attorney General's Investor Protection Bureau, the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, which is where the California cease and desist order came from and was signed by that whole government agency. It's a federal government agency. They issued the cease and desist order. Marianne Smith signed it. They meant it. That settles it. The end. God. The British Columbia Securities Commission and the Ontario Securities Commission. So the OSC had a full series of hearings this year, between February and May, I think, of this year, or April of this year. And they introduced over 50 exhibits into evidence into their investigation. And then, of course, there's a sharing of information and evidence that goes on. Especially between, countries that border each other that we're friendly with and allies with, and Canada being one of them. So, of course, they shared their information with us. We share whatever information as the U.S. we have with them. That's how it goes. All right? So, they sent over their information. I think many of you that have been victimized by this Ponzi scheme, this stupid Ponzi scheme that went on for 4 years too long and should have never been in existence in the first place, have produced enough evidence in your complaints, but continue to file your complaints. Continue to file your complaints with the SEC and file your complaints with the FBI and the CFTC. And don't be afraid to name these promoters on YouTube. They promoted this stupid Ponzi scheme, and they want to pretend as if somehow Fud Hood Dud Mud is a reason to why they should not have any level of culpability in court. Nope, you should be held accountable. Period. And like I said, BOJ, Becker Gerald, and Unlimited Freedom, they got it coming. Y'all got it coming. It is an absolute disgrace to the human race to see that you two still exist, let alone are still talking about crypto scams and pump and dump schemes. And they both got records. I don't understand this. You would think they would just learn how to go somewhere sound and shut up for a minute. Nope. Just keep insulting everyone that's been defrauded by this. Just because you can read this stuff doesn't mean that you're being somehow a service to anyone on your platforms. You guys still promote pump and dump schemes, and you know when to pull in and pull out. You have an understanding of the concept of that and how it works. That does not make you an investor either. Neither one of you are that smart, and neither one of you are even licensed or credentialed to be considered investors. You're not. You're not investors. And you're still lying to people, telling people this nonsense, Vaughn. You're not. So stop it, bro. You want to ask your attorney about disclaimers that I said to you meant nothing to a court of law or to a judge. They also won't care about you lying about being an investor. They're just going to hold you in contempt for it. Because if you go to court lying to them about that, they're going to hem you up. They'll be like, you know what? I'm going to hold you in direct criminal contempt. You keep lying in my face in my courtroom, and you're insulting me and my intelligence. You can't go to court pretending like you're stupid. Go in there and pull that stunt if you want to. Good luck to that. We also have attorney generals that can file federal lawsuits. I'm praying to God that the Attorney General of Georgia files one, because two of these co-defendants, ZZ and Corey Sampson, live in Georgia. Both of y'all need to catch it from our Attorney General here in the state of Georgia. Now, I don't know if it's based on where the victims come from, I'm assuming, or which, I guess which jurisdiction they would deem it to be worthy, of the northern or the southern, but it still need to be filed by the Attorney General, because both of them ought to be ashamed of themselves. And I know I have a video debunking Corey Sampson and Dap Dunbar from their Team Diamond meeting they had last year. It was disgraceful. An absolute disgrace. And this grown man tried to sit here and say something wasn't signed because he refused to look up what a cease and desist order was. You learned the hard way, didn't you, Dap Dunbar, you dumbass? You learned, didn't you? I bet you learned. I'm sure they showed you. Here's the whole cease and desist order. Now you tell me where it's not signed. Start with that. Good Lord. All right, so this is the summary. I'm going to read a couple inserts from the filing itself, because everybody knows I like to look at the court filing. It's 55 pages long, and it's just worth you all reading, especially if you've been victimized by Novatech, the dumb Ponzi scheme that it is. You all should definitely take time to read the 55-page docket that's been filed, so you can understand, some of the facts of the case and what they're going to be presenting to a jury trial that's been demanded. So hold on a second. And here we have the docket for the court filing between the SEC against Novatech and the co-defendants, these dumb Petions, ZZ, Corbett, Sampson, Dunbar, Garofano, and Hadley. Just because you weren't named in this lawsuit or the one from the New York Attorney General or the federal lawsuit from the law firm in New York does not mean you don't have it coming. Please stop underestimating people that are smarter than you. So all of these promoters need to be reported. Report them. Don't let them hide behind the guise of being somebody's pastor. Don't care, Mike Favors. Don't care. Neither does God. He didn't tell you all to lie and to take money from people and to put people into a Ponzi scheme. And when it started folding, none of you somehow can have a moral bone in your body while you still profess to be Christians and say you all need to read the cease and desist order. Because the Bible itself says that you are to obey the laws of the land. You don't get away with ignoring cease and desist orders. You just don't. So since you all failed to do that, then you should be reported for it and held accountable for your so-called display of ignorance. Because you can't go to court talking about willful ignorance and tactical stupidity. That is not how it works. Just don't say anything at all. Just stand there and take it like a champion. All right. So the jury trial has been demanded, which should be definitely given in this matter. You have hundreds of thousands of victims that deserve justice in this. And these co-defendants should not be given any type of settlement at all. ZZ doesn't want to claim responsibility while not admitting or denying anything. Okay, we ain't got time for that. No one has time for your dumbass games, ZZ. And $100,000 is a slap in the face. You know that's an insult. That is an insult. You've taken out millions from this Ponzi scheme. So trying to pay $100,000 is not even going to touch the surface of it all. The court of public opinion also has a way of swaying courts. Because you have too many people that have been victimized from this that are also going to say, no, he should not get away with just paying $100,000. He can kick rocks barefoot. So no, the court should deny the partial settlement request from co-defendant Martin ZZ. They should deny it. Deny it. And hold him accountable. I want him indicted. That's what I want. All of them need to be indicted. And add Bank of Gerald and Bond from Unlimited Freedom to that indictment. All of them need to catch it. Period. Don't care how y'all feel about it. None of y'all can even prove trading was occurring. No one has any license to prove they're an investor. You're not even smart enough to look up definitions of terms. So, no, you should not get a pass on this. Not at all. Not even a little bit. So, these Petions sat here and stole all this money for 4 years. Too damn long. From June 2019 to approximately May of 2023. And they say that date simply because that's when the so-called withdrawals was frozen and no one was able to take any money out. And of course, $650 million from 200,000 investors, including many in the Haitian American community. So you guys will hear these repeated themes and statements made, brought forth from other federal lawsuits as well as cease and desist orders. So you see the Haitian American community come up only because it is already mentioned in the two previous federal lawsuits from the New York Attorney General and the federal lawsuit from the law firm in New York. I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, it is what it is. Moving on. I want to get to a part of the filing here. Let's talk about the jurisdiction of venue. It is being heard in the U.S. District Court in the Southern District of Florida because it is either based on where the petitioner or the victims reside and or the business or basically the crime committed, essentially, right? So with this being a pyramid scheme, whatever was done related to this pyramid scheme, in the majority of the so-called business in the state that was done, or in the jurisdiction it was done in, is where the jurisdiction as far as where this court matter is going to be heard. That being connected and affiliated with the last known address of these dumb Petions. I think it's West Palm Beach, Florida. So the address that they had that was last known to the courts and anyone else for that matter was registered within the jurisdiction of the Southern District of Florida. Plus you have at least one co-defendant that also currently resides in that district, and that being Dapperlino Dunbar, because he's in Miami. So they're going to go based on where the transactions were primarily, the business was primarily conducted, or the last known address of the business, the registered business license, or the owner's last known address, or the victims or the petitioner, if it was an individual petitioner, like the federal lawsuit from the law firm in New York. It would be based on where those victims reside and or the co-defendants, where they reside. If it were a criminal matter, it would be based on where the crime was committed. All right, so even if it was in another state, let's say these dumb Petions lived in Florida, but they went to Alabama and they committed a criminal offense. No, they would be extradited back to Alabama and have to answer to that crime in Alabama. And then based on the address of where the crime was committed, then it would fall within that jurisdiction and venue of that court, right? So that's kind of the same principle in this. When the indictment comes, you always see the laundry list of criminal charges. But right now, seeing that it's a federal lawsuit, but it's still a civil proceeding, this jurisdiction and venue is appropriate because of that. And they have that listed on page 4 of the docket. And you guys can see that under the jurisdiction and venue section here. All right. So they give a history of the defendants. They give the facts of the case. And one of the things that I want to just point out here is one of the videos that Team Diamond did. Ooh, Lord. Where they tried to discredit a whole cease and desist order from California. What was offensive about it was the fact that they tried to pretend like it was not valid. And just not just that. The fact that they lied about the FBI doing an audit was even more egregious. So y'all lied on a whole federal government agency for no reason. It's so dumb. Why would y'all even lie? Like, that's a stupid lie to tell. The FBI did an audit and said you all are worthy somehow. Oh, God. So here's page 44 of the docket that I want to highlight here. And I encourage you all to read the entire thing, but I have to highlight this because this is so... I did a whole debunking Dunbar's dumbass video based on that Team Diamond meeting video that was done. And I have the video posted on my channel on the Novatech FX playlist, as well as my debunking Dunbar video on my Novatech FX playlist, where I show the facts, just the facts. And I have several videos on just the facts posted up that I've been able to come up with from my investigation of this, research rather, not my investigation, my research of this. But let's get to section 139 here. It says, I'm just going to read it. So, Sampson and Dunbar also sought to discredit or undermine the California order. For example, in a video presentation hosted by Sampson and posted to the Team Diamond Telegram channel on or about May 20, 2023, Dunbar stated, "We allowed a person, not a state, a person." Who's that person again? Not a state, though. Ugh. A person who filed a cease and refrain that meant diddly squat. To scare hundreds of thousands of people into thinking Novatech was going away because they got a cease and refrain in California. In the state of California, though. Jesus Christ. Never got signed by anyone in California. It was like you going and putting a restraining order on someone by filing documentation and paying $89. Who the hell told you that, dummy? Why didn't you just look up how that process works? Or watch one of my videos? Because I went over cease and desist orders several times before you all did this dumb meeting where you still said that dumb nonsense out of your mouth. And he had to answer for that. And now it's in a federal lawsuit. Because they couldn't read to save their lives or Google. Was it too difficult to Google cease and desist orders? Oh, so the California Department of Innovation, I just read the Department of Financial, not Innovation, the California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation, DFPI, was the one that issued the cease and desist order. That is a federal government agency. Cease and desist orders can also be enforced by a court of law. So if you violate the order intentionally, you can be capious and held in contempt. Yes, you can. You can be held in contempt of court. And it can be enforced. And you can be incarcerated for it. So thank you finna sit here after a jury trial that has been demanded in this federal lawsuit. Whatever order comes out of that, think you're going to violate it if you want to. No, you will go to prison. And when them criminal indictments come down, I hope that God you go to prison for the rest of your life. Because that's what should happen. Simply because you failed to read something and you decided to go out and say some dumb crap in a video that is going to be used against you in a court of law. Didn't I tell you goons that? I said so. I told you also. I told you all this was going to happen. I said this was going to happen last year. And I have been saying it consistently for over a year since then. I said all of this stuff that you're posting in your videos and in Telegram messages and in emails and text, all this stuff is going to be used against you in a court of law. Wire fraud will definitely be a fraud charge that you're going to catch out of this Ponzi scheme. Guaranteed. And conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Many counts of it. At the end of Dunbar's rant, seeking to discredit the California order, Sampson stated her agreement with Dunbar's description of the California order. She did so in her trusted position as the co-founder and leader of Team Diamond, to whom Dunbar directed his comments. So they were both just tag teaming this stupidity back and forth in that video the entire time. And if she really felt otherwise, she should have told him, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that we should just ignore cease and desist order. What I will say is let that investigation play out. If there is an order that has been issued, we need to obey the laws of the land because the Bible says so. Even if that was her only reason for saying that. I'd rather you state something that's accurate than to sit here and say some nonsense that you know is false. You knew that was false. What reason did you two have? Come on now. Chabu. So this is the just a portion of this court filing I wanted to highlight. Otherwise, I mean, they have it in here in the facts statement, the facts section of this filing. Corey Sampson herself withdrawing out, $1 million between February and March of 2023. She did this knowing that this was coming down the pipeline, that the cease and desist orders did have meaning, and she just didn't care. She didn't care about any of you all getting anything, because while they're secretly withdrawing behind your backs, they're telling you all to your face, don't withdraw your money, don't report us, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, okay. This is what happens to when you have some goons running the shit that don't want to read. Now, this situation has to be handled in the court of law. There should not be anyone feeling bad or feeling sorry for them for any reason whatsoever. This is what has to happen. This is how it has to go. So you guys take time to read this docket. It is 55 pages long. Well worth the read. And challenge BOJ and Unlimited Freedom on their nonsense, because they got it coming. They know it. And they're doing this because they're trying to go on full damage control, and they're still not smart enough to do that properly. But either way. All right. I'm looking forward to the indictment dropping. You guys take care. File your complaints with the SEC, the FBI, the CFTC. And make sure that if you just get to a point where you know more needs to take place, you want more action to go forward, contact the law firm in New York that has their federal lawsuit that's been filed earlier this year. You can also contact your attorney general in your prospective states and have them file federal lawsuits as well, just like Letitia James did. Thank you, Letitia James. We appreciate your service to our country. But you guys take care of yourselves. I'm out. Peace.